views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second season of Bella's Trailblazer series. Throughout Women's History Month, we will highlight Latinas who have excelled in their respective industries. I am your host, Flores Sorbello. It is a pleasure for me to introduce a Latina trailblazer who has worked in the nonprofit sector, including the World Economic Forum, United Nations, and UNICEF. She has been an advocate for many generations, and now, as an entrepreneur, she advocates for the inclusion, equity, and representation of the Latino entrepreneurial community. Please join me in welcoming Claudia Romo-Edelman. Claudia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. What a brilliant introduction. It's great to be here with you. What a great studio.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Now, Claudia, tell me about yourself. I know I've read your biography, and I think that you're an incredible Latina that has been from one place to another. Tell us about your upbringing. You're Mexicana,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and it's great actually, because the more we ask ourselves that question, each to every one of us, the more we're going to hear the stories that eventually will become the role models that we all need to have and we all need to be. Yes. So it is a pleasure for me to actually tell you about my story, so that if anything, I could inspire someone so that they also feel the need and the desire to inspire others by telling their own stories. We all need role models. We all are role models. And my role models were the feminists, the female of my household. I was born in a very strong Mexican, typical family where, like the father thought he was commanding and the chief commanding officer, and my grandmother was like, yeah, sure. And then she, it's the abuela of every household, yes, at least in Mexico, that has the command, but in a quiet way. But my family suffered through a lot of issues and challenges and confrontations. And it is through those moments where I learned how resilient you need to be in certain areas, and how graceful you have to be in order to overcome those difficulties. So my mother lost 2 children. We were 3, and my 2 siblings before me and after me died of a very rare genetical disease. And so when they were 18 months, instead of going forward in their development, they started going backwards. And so instead of running, they started walking, and instead of walking, crawling, and for crawling down. So you can only imagine that, being surrounded by death in a way. I was under the microscope for everyone in my family. They wanted to see whether I was going to be able to make it, and whether I was going to go back. So every single movement, I remember as a kid that it was like a little weird. They were like, is she gonna go? Is she going backwards, or so on? But it led me to also believe that I was strong. And I mean, they didn't say that openly, but sort of like, you were stronger than death. Yeah. I was a survivor of the family, and that gave me a sense of mission and a sense of desire to do something. There must be something. There must be some reason why I didn't die like my other 2 siblings, and I was there. So I was in a very happy yet very challenged family, and an upbringing that was crazy, dysfunctionally functional, but very strong, very wholehearted, and very values-based.
Yeah, I think that is so interesting. And, I think that everything that happens in our lives is for a purpose.
Yeah, for a reason.
It's absolutely for a purpose, and we are all born with a purpose.
Right.
And you are one of those purposes to bring that out to light. Now, tell me, where from Mexico is your family?
And just on the purpose piece, because it's interesting, you're right. Everybody has a purpose in life, but not everybody has discovered it.
Yeah.
And I think that over the last probably like 5 years especially, I felt very very clear that was one of the things that I could have been doing. That was one of my missions, to help people to see their own purpose. Because I think that particularly Latinas, and not only women in emerging market altogether, we just work. We work hard, we just try everything because we know that our families depend on us, that our children depend on us, that our parents depend on us, that our siblings depend on us. And so we just go for it and we just try so hard. And if it's not one shift, it's 2 shifts and it's 3 shifts, and we just keep going. And at some point when I give these courses and with these workshops for women about their North Star and so on, everybody at some point starts crying because we haven't taken the time to stop and think, what do I really want? Like, not only who I am, but also what's my purpose in life? Why am I doing all of that? And like, because we just never stop, isn't it? So I just find it very interesting that there is a trend out there that Latinas have to catch up to. Not only Latinas, but Hispanics in general have to catch up to, which is to slow down. Slow down, leave technology a little bit aside, look at nature, look at your family, stop working so hard. And of course, it's easier said than done when you make half of the salary, right? Like Latinos, we have to work twice as hard to make half as much. So it's easier said than done. And nevertheless, I think that there's an opportunity with the market going on to slow down for us to reconsider and think about, like, why are we doing all we're doing?
Yes. Is that what you're doing with We Are All Human?
Well, We're All Human is a desperate cry to remind people that we're all human. And this is because after 25 years of working in humanitarian affairs, you know, like you started naming them. I've worked from refugees, migrants, children, public health, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, just like overall, all the spectrum of global affairs, humanitarian affairs. And I am an absolute optimist. I see the numbers and I know we're making a difference. Absolutely. I see the trajectory, and despite all the negativity and all the negative news that we're bombarded with, I know we're making progress. So we should celebrate it. We should be possibilistic. And nevertheless, there's one thing that really concerns me, which could backtrack all the progress that we have made so far, which is that the divisive language is getting traction. And it's getting massive traction, not little traction. It is actually, we're getting to be a really divided world. So We're Human is trying to remind people that we're people. Like, we're not a Democrat or a Republican or a receptionist or a CEO. We are people, and we all belong to the same human family. And if an earthquake comes tomorrow, it takes us all. Absolutely. So those distinctions and those labels and those otherness and those bubbles in which we live are really dangerous in the macro spectrum. You know, like if you look at life in general, the way that I was describing how we're making progress as humanity, if this divisiveness keeps growing, we are going to put at risk all the progress that we have done. So it's very important that we the World Human Foundation and many others come with a message of bust the bubble. You're not your silo. You're not what you read on Facebook, which is totally algorithm based on what you want to hear and only that. And all of a sudden, when you hear a different voice than what you are, you're like, ah, what is that? Oh, it's a human. Like, you can't do that. So We're All Human basically tries to bring common ground, remind us who we are, bust the bubbles, and specifically working on Hispanics.
I am so fascinated with the event that you did at the United Nations, first of all. And I don't want to go into that particular direction right now, because I really want to hear about how you were able to get to where you are today. And I think that is one of the most important things that Latina youth and Latina women would like to know. You spoke about resilience. You spoke about not giving up. Tell us about your growing up. How did you knew that you wanted to pursue business and public affairs, right? Because you went to London, to the London Business School for your master's. Tell us a little bit more about that. How did you find the need to be able to do what you did, which I think it's incredible to be able to do so many humanitarian work?
I was always very like me, you know, like I'm 6 foot tall and I was always very loud and everybody was like, oh, you're so loud. And I remember actually, and I'm very, you know, like I torpe, you know, I don't know how to say it. Like I threw things, I cracked the lamp. My mother like, oh, again, you crashed something, you broke something. But there was this earthquake in Mexico in the 1985, and half of the city was destroyed, and it was a catastrophe. And it was not one earthquake, it was many earthquakes.
Was that in DF?
In DF.
Okay.
And so I was part of the thousands of volunteers, and I was a teenager, and I was part of the thousands of volunteers that were sweeping out the streets to see whether there were families and people trapped in the buildings. You know, they were falling apart by the minute. So I remember that we were sweeping, I was part of this team, and we were sweeping one of the streets, just checking that there were no people trapped to make attention. And then we were almost leaving the block when I had this instinct, that sense of hearing something, and I turned around and I went back and I tried to put out the ear, and I saw my team actually leaving the street, and it was all foggy and all full of noises and dust and so on, and I was like, I think I hear something. So they wouldn't see me and so on, so all of a sudden I stood up and I screamed like crazy, like, there's someone here! And one of the guys turned around and said, like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, but you have, I think so. So everybody came back. We together spent hours in trying to move that huge piece of rock. And the voice became clearer every time. So we knew there was someone. And then we cleared the rock. And the first thing we saw was like the eyes of that girl full of dust, looking like those eyelashes, looking at me like, you caught me, right? Like that sense of like, I'm here, right? You're here. You're not going to let me down. And at that moment, when we took her out and we were able, in the meantime, to find her mother and reunite them, and imagine that would have been like my daughter being left there because someone didn't pay attention to a voice. Mm-hmm. And I just felt for the first time useful in my life. And that was a feeling that I wanted to repeat and wanted to continue. And it was the first time in which I understood that was my thing, being loud, raising awareness to the things that no one was seeing. And, you know, like, it was like, I know you don't want to pay attention to this. I know you want to move to the next block, but there's more to be discovered here. And I think that's where I found that using my voice to bring it to voiceless mm-hmm.
was
something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Wow. And how was tell me, that's very impacting, by the way. I could only, when you were speaking, I saw like the whole vision, like a movie in my head. And I could only imagine what a sensitive situation that is to be able to hold it together, right?
But each and one of us has a strength that sometimes mm-hmm. is confused by society as a weakness.
Yes, it's true.
Where you can actually discover what you really, really want and what you really, really are. And that's who you are. I was loud. I'm still, I'm still loud. Like I'm loud. And I think it's just a matter of like using it to reconcile who you are with what you want to do, and then do it like in a way that would you match your personal values with your strengths, and then just like when purpose meets passion, you're unstoppable.
Yes. I actually posted something about that a few weeks ago, actually a year ago, and it came into the memory of Instagram stories, right? As a reminder. Tell me, did you have any mentors that guided you to be where you are today? I'm sure that we do in different stages, but talk to me about the stages.
Totally.
When you were a teenager, that led you into college, and then college into your master's, right?
And that is what I really want for the Hispanic community. We're not mentor culture.
No.
And we have to. We totally have to. And I was lucky to have mentors, whether they knew they were my mentors or not. And I will mention 3. So the first one is my mom, and she has been my mentor. Despite being my mother, and on top of being my mother, and that's really interesting. And I think that in a survey we did, every Hispanic puts as role models first and foremost their family. And I think that's beautiful, and we should be proud of that, of having such a strong sense of family values and be who we are. That's why we are strong as societies and not dispersed as others. And so my mom has been my mentor. When she lost her kids, she was a basketball player, a professional basketball player before she got pregnant. She stopped basketball. She decided to study economy. And then all of a sudden, imagine, this woman turns out...
Is that where you get your beautiful height and your beautiful...
This woman turns and says, like, economy is boring. I want to be an actress. And at age 40 or something, she decides to reinvent herself. And those are examples that you're like, what? So she started, we went through ups and downs financially like crazy and through everything, because from having a total solid status to like going into discovering a new world when she was 40. So that, so that means every risk I take, she got my back. She's there. And she's like, come on. Like, of course she has to do that. She became an actress when she was 40. The second person is, Jaime Ortega was my boss at a radio station I worked in Switzerland. And he probably doesn't even know he was my mentor. But altogether, not only he was there for me when I had to do a daily show on radio in Switzerland, you can only imagine, in Spanish, but altogether it was like the learning about myself and tuning my voice and just making sure that I was not always as, as intense but not only that, like he was the one that we saw each other every day for years and years. So he always told me, when I exercise, when you feel that you're about to die, give it 5 more minutes. And that's a lesson in life altogether that you can apply not only to exercise, but in everything. Actually, just like when you feel that you can no longer, just give it 5 more minutes. And then the last mentor I want to mention to you is by accident. So, and this was, if you want, a negative mentor, but I think that Hispanics could relate very well to this. I was in Switzerland, in the German part of Switzerland, and they put someone on top of me because I was almost on probation from this job, saying like, no, you're too, like, we have structure here, a very strict structure, so you're too creative for us. So you have to actually fill this Excel file.
Did they actually tell you that?
Pretty much, not directly. No, it was with a lot of love, but pretty much like, too Latina here. And so it was like, you have to fit in the box. And this guy, Swiss-German guy, every Monday, he would meet with me and he checked actually all the activities that I did during the week, and every single piece of it had to fit in this Excel file. And through that, doing that for 6 months, literally taught me so much about the value of structure, about the value of adaptability, about the value of actually dealing with challenges as opportunities. So the more the challenges, the more opportunities. And if you look at it that way, as a learning opportunity, then bring it on challenges.
Yes. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I know that you said a few words, but did any? I know that you said a few words that helped you get motivated and pick up, right? Did any of these mentor at any point in your life guide you to a specific school?
Yes, I mean, like as I said, for example, Jaime was on the give it the extra mile, give it a 5 more minutes, give it 5 more minutes. Or, like opportunities, challenges as opportunities. Those are great lessons for me. And I think that my mother taught me to just go for life. I think like that's the school that I think that we all have to learn, that everything is possible, because it is. It literally is. I mean, like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but everything is possible. And if you look at life that way, as in like everything is possible.
When you believe.
Everything is possible. Then if you start looking at life that way, then it is possible that we will have a Hispanic president. It is possible that we will be paid equally. It is possible that we're going to be a unified community. It is possible that we will be seen and heard. and valued in the workplace. It is possible that we will feel like the number one hire that every company wants to see, because it's possible. Because we're the greatest source of emotional engagement. So companies will have to come and salivate after us and try to gain our talent and gain our love. So all is possible. We just have to look at it that way, and then you will see how close it looks.
Yes. Oh my God. So such encouraging words, guys. Are you feeling what I'm feeling? Are you feeling what I'm feeling? So did anyone tell you that you would never make it? A lot of those, right? Tell me about that story. And what was your feedback? How did you react to that? I bet you turned that into an opportunity, but I'd like to hear how.
Yeah, no, everyone. I don't have any single step on the way. Every big milestone of my life has started with, you can't do it. When I was in a Catholic school in Mexico, and I hated being only with girls, and I wanted, of the wall there was a boys' school, and I really wanted to be with a mixed school or something, I wanted to see boys, not only girls. And I wanted to go to this high school, secondary school in Mexico, and we went to see the teacher. And she said, you can forget about it. You don't speak a word of English. And all the kids that have been taught English since they were 3 years old, there's no way that in 6 months, that is the application time, you can learn. And I'm like, you tell me that. I mean, whatever time, any time, and obviously, I was given the opportunity to be in the middle of nowhere where I couldn't speak nothing but English, and it was horrible at the beginning, and I couldn't even ask for, soap for the toilet or food or anything. But I got into the school, and I actually managed to change the structure where I was, and they told me I could never make it in Europe when I moved there. I went there, I speak 6 languages out of nothing. Altogether, I think that every step on the way, someone has been a great encourager by saying, you can't do it. Yeah. Because then there's where you say, that's the face I want to remember. When I finish that marathon, when I climb that mountain, when I get that job, that's the face I want to remember.
And I love how things just comes back into a full circle, right? And then they see, I told her she couldn't, and look at it.
And I never actually had the pleasure I never seek the pleasure to tell them hey, I did it and so on. But it gave me the anger, it gave me the encouragement to say only because I'm a woman, only because I'm Mexican, only because I'm this, only because I'm that. No.
That's incredible. And I think that those are the things that we, as in our audience, could see that. But not every person sees that. They don't always see an opportunity, right, in a challenge. But
that is one of the, you were asking me what is world human, and in terms of Hispanics, one of the biggest lessons that I learned, one of the biggest insights and lessons, if you want, is 4 years ago, I moved to America after 25 years of living in Europe. And I'm a marketer. I'm a race-born marketer. I literally did that for a living. And I came to America and I was like, holy cow, this is a reverse marketing problem. I, all my life, did packaging and marketing, which is highlight the best attributes of a product and try to put it in the public so that they get attracted to it. In my case, I always did social causes, so trying to, do something for AIDS or for poverty or for women, maternal mortality or so on. But you actually try to find the best attribute, the most humane, the most compelling. And I came here, and the numbers of Hispanics are absolutely stunning, in everything and everything. And then the packaging, it's so unrelated. They did everything possible to hide the attributes of Hispanics and to present them as the worst self. Not only they were completely disconnected. So, and one of the main questions for me is, ¿Qué carajos? Why? How the hell? How is this possible? How is it that we're 59 million, 18% of the population, 1.7 purchasing power. We're the future voters. We're the future consumers. We're 70% of any any potential new job creator and employee. We consume more in mobile. We're like everything, like palomita, 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 you name it. Everything is just perfect.
Palomita, palomita, palomita.
And then the packaging is like bad hombres, half paid, no voting, no understanding. 74% of Hispanics have to pretend they're someone they're not in the workplace. And the most stunning for me was like, why? And there are two reasons. One is because we're fragmented. We don't see each other as a community. We identify as Hispanic, as Latino, but we don't see ourselves working as a Hispanic community. So the Hispanic community is not a community, and we have to change that.
Absolutely.
And the other number is that 77% of Hispanics have not realized their own contributions to the country. You only imagine that in your office, 77% of your staff doesn't know what they're doing. That would be a disaster. Absolutely. It is a major catastrophe that 77% of Hispanics don't understand their own contributions to this country, and that has to change. And what I think that we have to do is increase the role models, increase the mirrors that we're showing to Hispanics.
Thank you for being here today and sharing your story to be a role model.
We have to talk about our beauty. We're beautiful. Hispanics are powerful. We're big and we're wonderful. We just have to see that, and we have to see that reality and know that without us, this country wouldn't be where it is, that the Hispanic promise is the American promise and Hispanic values are American values. So let's actually get that number down and let's get Hispanics to know, like let's show Hispanics our own beauty. It's time for Hispanics to talk to Hispanics, about the beauty of Hispanics.
And I think that you're doing a great job. And I know that there's a few others, right?
Yes, many. I'm just standing on the shoulders of so many people.
I know, and what you're starting with the summit at the UN, it was something incredible. You just brought us all together, and I think that no one has been able to do that to the best of my abilities. So that's what I'm trying to do, from the high schools to the college students.
Yes.
Bring everyone together so that we could be able to have that movement.
And the youth plays such an incredible role. The most important, I would say that one of the most important communities to be mobilized for Hispanics is the youth. If you tell young people, did you know that Latinas create 6 times faster than any other group in America small businesses? Did you know that we created 87% of every single new job in America since the Great Recession? Did you know that we're like if we start educating the youth to tell other youth about it, you're gonna see a ripple effect where, they will feel proud and they will feel part of the economy and they will feel that their voice matters. Because we're not voting not because we don't know where the poll station is. We're not voting because we don't feel that it matters. Because we don't feel represented and because we don't feel that we have a voice. So it starts from the inside. It starts from the realization that we're powerful and we're beautiful.
And it starts from the point of education.
Yes.
So if no one educates you on that, then how are you going to go? Right?
Yes.
So tell us about you. Tell us about more about how did you get into to do all these humanitarians after going to school? Learning 6 languages is incredible. And living 25 years in Europe? Tell us about that. How were you able to get there?
So I think that what kicked me off, what started me was that I felt that I wanted to see the world and I wanted to see how, how to make a difference. I was very, very clear that what I wanted to do is make a difference. And I was promised a job in Switzerland, and then when I came to Switzerland for the first time, the job was not there. And so I was like, I'm not gonna go back to my country, to my dad, who's gonna laugh at me, because I came back 6 months earlier. I was supposed to go for 6 months. So I was like, what do I do? That was one of the first big challenges that I had to face, and one of the big decisions is do I try something, having nothing, no money, no language, no job, no nothing, and do I stay here and give it a try, or out of with nothing, literally, or do I go back to the things I know and the comfort zone, but accept defeat in a way? And I think that all of that, and it was a hard month.
That was
the first half month was no, not only the reflection. The reflection was I want to give it a try because I wanted I wanted to succeed in front of this very adverse thing. I was excited to be in Europe for 6 months, so only because someone didn't give me a job didn't mean that my dream would go by. And so I tried actually, and I started doing, like I started putting the universities, like I exchanged, like language lessons for German lessons, or, like pay me something and I walk your dog or whatever. I just like survived for the first month. And then like slowly but surely, things started to get me into a place where I could actually leave, where I could try to do it. And actually 2 months after, the job that I was promised that didn't happen before happened. So I got the job offer for that. And I decided to stay in Europe working as a diplomat for the Mexican government. And I was working on economic affairs and commercial affairs. And that was really interesting for me to understand how to represent a country and the areas of negotiation, and how important it is to actually know how to behave yourself as a Hispanic, as a Latina, in front of all the other nationalities and how they behaved. And it gave me a glimpse of how the world works, and how, like being in a table, no one was really raising their voice and everybody was calm and making a point. And so I learned a lot from observing all these other, like diplomats dealing with issues. And it gave me also a sense of big. Like there's a big world out there. And then I think that from there you start getting curious, and I was very fortunate to have a mentor on networking, someone who told me networking matters, relationships are important, you have to cultivate your relationships. And I didn't know what that meant, but it meant for me that from that moment on, I made a point of making sure that I connected to the right persons for pleasure and then for purpose. And that guided me to go from Switzerland to England, from England back to Geneva, to the Swiss part of Geneva, of France, Geneva, like Switzerland, and then France. And all of that happened through, like a way of like following destiny in a way. I never chose where to go except the London School of Economics, the school that I wanted to do, because I didn't have a framework. And I needed to have something to guide me, but I didn't have the money before to study or to pay for that. So once I asked for a scholarship, and that's a huge advantage. I didn't know how to ask. And asking matters. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
So I started asking for, should I get a scholarship? Like I'm a Hispanic, I'm this and that. So I think that was between asking and networking and knowing a little bit how to observe what people were doing and adapt to that, was like that. Those had been the years that I passed in Europe.
That's incredible. That's an incredible experience. Wow.
So from journalism, diplomacy, and then I moved to work for the World Economic Forum. That was an incredible experience. Then I managed the anti-globalization campaign from there, celebrities, the brand, moved to refugees, which was already like full-on humanitarian. And from there on, it has been the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, and then moving to UNICEF here in America to start working on issues that are global, but from here.
How did you know that I know that you had explained that, but I cannot even, a lot of us when we are young, we know more or less what we want to do. Sometimes we don't. And I know that you explained some of that through the earthquake. But did you knew at the age of 10 or 11 that you wanted to do that?
No, not even at the university. I studied communications because I didn't know what to do. I knew that I liked communicating, but I didn't know whether it was film or it was radio or it was, like newspaper, or whether I wanted to be a journalist altogether. I did 2 master degrees. One, I was like doing a lot of universities to clarify what's my calling? Where's my place? What do I really want to do? So no, it takes a lot of time and a lot of iteration. And I think that if I would speak to my younger me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I would say, have conversations with people. Yes. That's the part I didn't do, and I wasted a lot of years in trying jobs as opposed to not getting to work as much as I like, and just like talking to people like, what is your industry? What do you do in an ad agency? what is a newspaper? What do you do in a newspaper, and so on. So I think that that's one of the things that to my kids, for example, and to young people, I would say, like, just go ask someone that you like and tell them, like, how's your life? What's your job? What do you do? How do you actually, what's the connection that you have with yourself, and what's the trigger, and how do you, how do you see me there?
And that's what we do actually at Bellas.
Yeah.
We actually help them, and we help them connect. We help them land either an internship or speak to someone within the industry of their interest. And I know that you mentioned the hard moments and what you did to face them. Did you wish that you did anything different?
I mean, I wish that I would have asked before a number of people what to, like, what's their world like. I wish I would have believed more in myself as an entrepreneur earlier on, because a lot of us, like Hispanics, we have that in us. We're very entrepreneurial spirits by definition. And I think that when you feel that you want to do something on your own, my full advice is go explore it. That doesn't mean that you go blind.
Go explore it.
Go explore it. But doesn't mean go blind and drop everything out and forget about the responsibilities. Let's just give it a go. But it's like, be serious about exploring what is your idea like. Because I think that part of what we can do is make sure that as entrepreneurs we have a network of support and a network of knowledge where we know, okay, so if I want to pursue this, who do I ask? Where is the capital that I can access? What are the, what are the legal instruments that I need to do that, and so on?
Wow. Yes, I do agree with you on those. What keeps you striving?
That is possible. I mean, like and I think that we're, like a lot of people that work with me and people that are in my world say, like, comment all the time on my energy and the drive and like it's hard to keep up. It's because I know it's possible, and I see it happening. And for example, the unification of the Hispanic community, us having a voice and being united and conscious of our own contributions. It's a matter of like 2 years. It's not. I don't. This is not a 20-year job. We can get it done really fast. I know it's possible, and I'm just like on the impatient side of life, particularly when it's something that matters too much.
What would you recommend a Latina that wants to go into your industry of nonprofit, of advocacy, right, and entrepreneurial? For non-for-profits in particular, there's not a lot of Hispanics, and it's natural in a way because like the sacrifices of our parents to get us to a good school. What you feel the obligation is to go to, I don't know, banking or consulting or something like that once they have put so much. But if your heart is with a non-for-profit and you feel that you want to give back in civil society, speak up. I mean, like a lot of the times, I've been the only woman and Hispanic in non-for-profit rooms because we don't feel that we deserve a seat on the table. So we don't speak up, and we don't stand out, and we don't stand up, and we don't step forward. But that's only cultural, like that's only because it's not that we don't have a point or that we don't want to do something. It's because we feel shy. And this is the time to lift the masks, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to actually shine, because Hispanics, again, will be the number one desired employee of the future. We have every single element that is necessary. We work hard, we have values, we have emotional engagement, we have passion and desire to aspire, like we're not only ambitious but also aspirational, and we're optimistic. If you put all of these together, you're like the stellar employee of the future. So speak up, stand out, speak up, and stand up. Fantastic. Did you hear that? Did you all hear that? Speak up. Be fantastic, be yourself. Never stay quiet. I think that's one of the things that we all face as Latinas, right? And that comes from a cultural background, and women in general. So I think that has such a impact in the way that we were raised. It's good and bad because Latinas are so fierce, absolutely fierce.
But not in the workplace.
But not in the workplace.
And not in the right way. And that's a balance that we have to find.
Yes.
I mean, like I see it, like I started working on gender issues, I don't know, like 20 years ago. And at that time, and even 15 years ago, no woman really wanted to play the women card. They didn't want to say, like, I am here because I'm a woman. And I was fighting that all the time. And I was like, how else are you going to elevate the gender discussion if you don't say, I'm a woman and we deserve to have more women? And, you know, like if you don't speak up as a woman, you're not going to have people to see up, like look up for you. And if you don't see it, you don't believe it. And I think that it is time for Hispanics to do the same, is to play the Hispanic card, play Hispanic, be proud to be Hispanic where you are, speak up and actually be like, don't pretend to not have an accent or anything like that. We're pretty understandable anyways. And just say, like, I'm Hispanic and I am very proud to be Hispanic in this workplace and I'm giving it all.
And thank you for putting a voice for us at the World Economic Forum. That's
Yes.
incredible.
And everywhere, we're gonna go everywhere. We're gonna go. So we're putting the voice, and this is not only me, this is not only World Human. This is World Human with 20 Hispanic organizations. I'm a newbie here. The only thing I'm doing is creating neutral platforms and being loud to all the things that everybody else is doing. But we put Hispanics for the first place at the United Nations. We put Hispanics for the first time at the World Economic Forum. We have Hispanics in Times Square right now in huge billboards saying we're the astronauts, we're the scientists, we're the academics, we're Hispanics.
Yes.
And we're going to the Cannes Advertisement Festival with Lions. We're going to go to places where Hispanics need to be, which is everywhere.
Wow. And Claudia,
yes,
you not only are part of, you lead Special Advisor at We All Human, but tell us about this podcast that you have going on and that you're the editor-in-chief for Chief of Thrive Hispanics. How do you find time for all of these activities and different moving parts that you have in your life?
So We're All Human, two different questions there, right? Like the We're All Human is an organization that tries to advance equity, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Our real focus is on inclusion because the world is already pretty diverse. Just look around and you see us, we're diverse already.
Yes.
We just have to make it more inclusive so that we can all bring our best selves and then we can achieve equity. So our focus is in that part of inclusion. And as such, we have an arm for Hispanics, but we have another arm which is on the sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals. And so we try to encourage the creation of champions that are making a difference so that they feel we are making progress. Because we're bombarded with negativity. Yes. And so if you think that what you're doing is gonna go nowhere, it's harder for you. But if you are together in the room where all the people that are making a difference and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, and we're winning this battle. Everybody wants to be on the winning team. So we create a podcast telling the stories of those champions and celebrating the progress that we're doing as humanity. And it's called the Global GoalsCast. And so I invite you all to listen to it. It's led by a Hispanic woman, me, and Edie Lush, my co-host in London. Then we have a number of events that we create in order to create that community. Thrive Hispanics. Thrive, Ariana Huffington is one of my mentors, and I love her and adore her because she's been an example not only to me, but to so many women that are saying, like, you know what, I can be a mother, I can be an entrepreneur, I can be an empresaria, and I can be a good friend, all of them together. And Thrive is an online hub for people to try to share the stories about how they are mindful and how they are slowing down. So everything that I mentioned before, Thrive Hispanics, we haven't launched it yet, but we're looking for partners that want to launch it. Thrive Hispanic will be the place for the sharing of the Hispanic community and for brands that care about the Hispanic community to show their love about how can we actually take time off and just be more mindful. We're burning out. We're working like there's no tomorrow.
That's very true. And it comes from top to bottom. It doesn't matter what position you are.
Right, and the second question you asked was a bit more personal about what's my work-life balance, I think, right? So I have I have 2 teenagers and a husband who's on the demanding side of life, who's wonderful and really on the very active but also very demanding side of life. And, I have 8 siblings and a mother. My father just passed away. So it's a huge micro-universe all on its own. And I think that the only way in which I feel peace in managing my work-life balance is by doing it through in a very organized and disciplined way. So I work on quotas. Like, I want to make sure that every week I have at least 6 times breakfast with my kids, that I have 3 times a dinner 3 times a week, dinner with them, that I call my sister twice a week, that I exercise 7 times a week, that I sleep at least, 40 hours during Monday and Friday. I mean, I have to actually get that in a very organized.
I see your videos in the morning, and I think it's so encouraging. I'm like, I should be doing that every morning, but I don't.
And half of the time, I feel like I'm sick like a dog right now. Oh. And nevertheless, I was like,
thank you so much
I have to go. No, of course, but but I have to, who's the boss? I'm the boss, so I have to put down my body, I have to put down my computer, otherwise you have so many things that it's not possible to do them all. So I think that by having a very clear structure of what I want to do in weekly basis, and every year at the end of the year, one of my best friends, my mother, and I sit down and we say, what do we want to do this year? And we break it down. Nice. I think that's the way for me to get through it. It's not easy. I don't juggle. I don't achieve most of the things that I want in regular basis, but I do focus on the priorities that are important for me.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for you?
Next is actually just getting ready for 2020. I think that overall I want to see a huge, massive change in the Hispanic unification. I want to see that number of 77% of Hispanics not being aware of their own contributions down. Mm-hmm. I want to see it down to a 30% of something ridiculous where I feel very proud about, having, incentivized the Hispanic community to be more aware of our own successes. And I want to make sure that, we feel that we're seen, that we're heard, and that we're valued, because that's the place that we deserve.
Yes, I do agree with you in so many different ways. And yes, that is an issue that I actually had a conversation with someone, and it was about that we're not united. And if we were, it would just be a very powerful force.
Bust the bubbles.
Yes, bust the
bubbles.
So now we get into the fun part of Bella Fashionistas, where obviously you know that we are fashion, but we also like to speak about your stories. But we want to know, what is your fashion sense, which you obviously have a beautiful outfit, pleats, it looks like pleat. Tell us, so this is the Bellas Fashionistas in 7 seconds. So in 7 seconds, it's just a quick answer. Okay, ready?
I am.
Okay, good. Who dresses you?
So I look for Hispanic designers most of the time.
God.
Yes, and I'm looking for even more.
Good, there's a lot more out there.
There you go. So right now, Carolina Herrera, Oscar de la Renta, Narciso Rodriguez, but I want more Hispanics. Please come and talk to us. Yeah. My wedding dress was designed by, was made by a Bolivian Guillermo, who's fantastic.
No way.
So yes.
Nice. Okay. Who is your favorite fashion designer, which you already said it? But your top female fashion designer, would that be Carolina?
No.
No. Okay.
Chiara Di Boni. Chiara Boni. She is Chiara Boni. She's not Hispanic, and that's the only thing that I hold against her. I'm like, why are you Italian? She's a wonderful lady, my size, like my length, and she's very simple and clean and lean. And I wish she would be my best friend and just do a lot of things for me. Yeah, there we go. Yes. I've been writing to her love letters, hey, look, I do all these events. I would like to do a partnership with you. Send me dresses, I'll wear them, give them back.
That's so funny. Fashion icon.
Audrey Hopper.
Audrey Hopper, nice. Yes, she is a fashion icon. Top shoe designers.
Manolo Bling.
Oh, nice, nice. Yes, we love the links. Top 5 dress codes. Dresses or
Jimmy T.
pants?
Huh?
Dresses or pants?
Dress.
Yes. Blazer, no blazer.
Blazer.
Blazer, love blazers. Stilettos or thick heels?
Stilettos.
Yes, who wears thick heels anymore? Okay, when you're not in work clothes, you are in?
Home clothes.
Oh, yes, yes, PJs.
It's not
Makeup or no
PJs though.
No, sweatpants. No, not sweatpants.
No.
Leggings.
No.
Yeah?
Home clothing.
Home clothing?
Home
Okay,
clothing.
okay. What is that?
So you don't know?
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Makeup or no makeup?
Makeup all the
Yes,
time.
all the time.
No makeup.
Okay.
Yeah.
No makeup. Yeah, me too. I think I like that too. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for explaining. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think that you are an incredible Latina. And thank you so much for doing what you're doing right now, which is to unite everyone in the Latino community who are entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs.
And thanks
and
to
we need
you.
more of that. We actually need more of that.
Yeah, thanks to you. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great opportunity. I hope that actually you could call in all the people in fashion that are Hispanics.
Yes,
Because a lot of the
yes.
time Hispanics, to support Hispanics, they have to buy Hispanics, hire Hispanics,
I agree.
and dress Hispanics. We just need to make them more visible. So thank you so much for having me here. And please go ahead and bring visibility to those Hispanics in fashion.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Please tune in next Tuesday for our second episode of Bella's Trailblazer series on Facebook Live and on BronxNet TV. Follow Bella's Fashionistas on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Instagram at Bella's Fashionistas, as well as our media partners at BronxNet TV. And don't forget to visit our website, bellafashionistas.com and bronxnet.tv. We'll see you next week.